Hi guys, and today I've got for you the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now I did do a brief drive of the car earlier this year, and I'll put a link to that above and below in the description. But now I've had the car for a few days and I get to do a longer proper test with the car. We can talk a little bit more about the practicality and about actually driving it around town. So we're going to check all of that out. So first, to tell you a little bit about the car, it is of course a Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now the Mustang really is a marketing exercise. It's in order to cash in on the brand cachet, if you like, of the Mustang. It's just what BMW has done with Mini, extending the Mini brand into other models, and what Fiat have done with the 500 brand, extending that into other models. That's what they're doing with the Mustang brand, although this is a very different car to the traditional Mustang that you may be used to. For a start, there's no V8 under the bonnet. In fact, there's nothing under this bonnet, and I'll show you that in a minute. This is of course an all-electric car. Now they come in various configurations in terms of the regular range, and there's an extended range, so there's different power outputs, then there's rear-wheel drive, and then there's all-wheel drive. This is actually the base model, so it's quite good to actually start one of these reviews with a base model. We don't often get that. We normally end up with a top-of-the-range press car. So this is basically the regular range car, rear-wheel drive, starts from about just over 41,000 pounds, and it gets the 269 brake horsepower, 430 Newton meters. That still gives it a top speed of 111 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 acceleration time of 6.9 seconds. You're asking about the range? Well, they claim 273 miles. I must confess that the car arrived to me on 206 miles with 89 or 90% charge, and to be honest, the range that I've done on it has actually been quite impressive. I'll talk about that once we're inside the car. So as usual, we're going to have a look at the car. First of all, we've got to look at the styling. It's very obvious that it's a Mustang because it's got a Mustang pony badge on the front and on the rear. Now the rest of the car, it has some lines that are evocative of a Mustang. It's got that sort of, pronounced hooded bonnet, and it's got the tri-bar rear tail lights, and they give it a kind of a Mustang look, but actually it's nothing like a regular Mustang. It is of course a four-door SUV as such, and a luxury SUV at that. It does have a presence though, particularly this white car. I've been driving around London the last few days, and it's had some looks, it's had some comments, it's had somebody shouting from across the street going, "Oh, that's the first of the new Mustangs I've seen." So I mean, it definitely has a kind of an attraction about it. I have to say, I've grown quite to like the car. I quite like the shape of the car. I think it's got presence, I think it's got style. I'm not sure that white is the right color for this, but I think it certainly does have a presence on the road. So it'll be interesting to see what the practicality of this thing is like and what it's actually like inside and to drive, and we're going to do all of that. But before we do any of that, as usual, make sure that you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy. Make sure you follow me on browncarguy.com. Make sure you follow me on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok. Just follow my hashtag, which of course is #browncarguy. And if you enjoy my content, then hey, you know what? You can support me by going over to patreon.com/browncarguy, and there you can sponsor my content. Cool. Let's get into this. Now I normally walk to the back of the car, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you what's here right after this. So at this point, I normally march to the back and I open the back, or the hatch in this case, to show you the boot. But actually, there's a boot here as well. It's not called a boot, it's called a frunk. Why a frunk? Because in America, they call the boot a trunk, right? And it's at the front, so therefore, it's a frunk. So there you go. It's underneath this hooded bonnet here with the mustachio sort of grille. Of course, it doesn't need a grille, it's an electric car. So how do you open that? It's actually from inside. So you just have to reach into the passenger side. There's a lever that you pull twice. Once to release it, second to disengage it. By the way, this is where the electric charging stuff, it all plugs into there. And where are the cables? The cables are kept in here. And in fact, there you go, that's one cable. This is another heavier cable. So these are for home charging and for external charging. Then this compartmentalization construction here, that can all be unscrewed and taken out, so you get the full benefit of that frunk. But actually there's quite a bit of space there. You could put a weekly shop into there, no problem at all. You've also got the windscreen washer filler cap there, and you've got a nice little logo here underneath the frunk lid, if you like. So now it is time to see what the actual boot is like. So as I was saying, check out these tri-bar tail lights. That's very reminiscent of the Ford Mustang, and of course you've got the pony logo as well on the front, also on the back. You won't find any Ford badges on this car anywhere, apart from here in the number plate it says Ford. But other than that, the marketing, the brand marketing is all about Mustang. So I can either open it with the key fob by double clicking that, or there's a button under there. It's not powered, so you have to lift this one, certainly on this base model anyway. And once you've done that, you get quite a broad and a wide luggage compartment. It's pretty spacious. I'd say it's about average, maybe just slightly below average for this sort of car, but you know, it's on par. And you get the split folding rear seats, the 60/40 split folding rear seats. Now this floor is quite high, but in fact you can actually move it and adjust it, and it can go down. And underneath the floor there's a bin here, there's a tire pressure repair kit, first aid kit, and a few cavities as well. There's a pocket on each side, plus you've got a hook on each side. You've got a power supply and a light. So all in all, reasonably practical and spacious. Now let's see what the rear passenger space is like. So first of all, how do you open the rear door? You actually just press that, it releases like that. There's actually a little bar that comes out and pushes the door out. It actually just that one there, and it actually pushes the door outwards. Once you get in, you find that actually it's a very spacious rear compartment indeed, in fact. I mean, look at this. I mean, again, I must say that this seat is set for my driving position. I am 6'2" with long legs, so that's set for me. And as you can see, I've got knee room to spare. I've got tons and tons of knee room actually. There's no problem down here. The feet may be slightly tight, but not too bad. They're okay, not an issue. Loads of elbow room, headroom, not an issue either. And actually, you know, despite the fact that this spec car doesn't have a panoramic roof, it feels quite spacious and airy in here. Even the windows are quite narrow and the door line is quite high, but I don't really get a sense of claustrophobia as you sometimes do in cars like this. So what do you have back here? You have very nicely trimmed seats, and you do have a center armrest, and in the armrest you have two cup holders. You of course, as I mentioned, have the Isofix child seat anchor points. I love the trim on this. It's very nicely done. I mean, they put a lot of effort and thought into this car, and at the front you can see, just looking at the design that they've gone into that, you can see that, you know, this is a little bit more than your average mass market car that you normally get. Down here you've got USBs, you've got a micro USB and a regular USB, so that's really good. That's what the kids need. So really, other than that, and of course you've got these very strange door handles, which are the same in the front, which are just kind of pull levers. If I do that, as you can see, the same thing has happened where that little bar has come and it's just pushed the door out a little bit. So other than that, really nice, comfortable, lights up there, somewhere to hang your suit and stuff like that. Pretty good, very comfortable. I'm very pleased. I could travel easily in the back of this. Could I travel in the front? Let's find that out. Check this out. You have an option of a keypad to get in the car, or this, you've got this fantastic little thing which is like a bit of an aero kit just here, and again you do the same thing. You press the button and it pushes it out. You can open it with that, and there is the little bar that actually comes out, and you can see it's going back in again, that actually pushes the door out. Same thing happens at the back. So here we are inside the new Mach-E, and you've got to admit, it's not like any Ford that you would recognize, right? In fact, of course, there is no Ford logo in this car apart from, again, the pony here at the front. But this is very, very different. This is very sophisticated, very kind of futuristic. Dare I say, you know, that's a leaf out of, say, Tesla's book of having a big iPad-like screen right in the middle there. So what happens? Let's press the starter button, which is here, and then you have this little screen. You won't hear it, but you get a little musical tone to greet you, and also when you turn it off you also get another version of that. It's quite an action orientated bit of music actually that happens. So you get a very small screen here. The only thing that I figured out that you can adjust on this is you can have day and night mode, which you can either do automatically or you can do it yourself, so you can go into dark mode and stuff like that. So it pretty much gives you only the basic information that you need, and you know, the all-round safety perimeter of the car, and of course it gives you the range and the battery percentage. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And of course it tells you, you know, the speed and what mode you're in terms of driving. This here, the one, means one pedal mode, which is how I've been driving it, and then you've just got, you know, safety kit and all the rest of it, temperature and all that. So over here, this is the big story. Here is this screen. Now this screen, there's a lot to get into, so I won't be able to get into everything. everything. But I have to say that using it on the go is a bit tricky, because again, you have to coordinate your finger positioning as you're driving, and there's no haptic or tactile feel as such. But you do start to get used to how it operates and the operating system behind it. So the main thing to remember is this bit here. And this bit here basically are the shortcuts to all the things that you might need and all the trip meters. So for example, you can get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all the rest of it. Apple CarPlay basically takes up the top part of the screen and leaving the lower part of the screen for the features of the screen itself. So if I go into trip, and it will tell you what I've done. So this is current trip. Trip 1 is my trip, what I've been doing. I've driven 97 miles, about 10 hours, 4.4 miles per kilowatt. Now that sounds about average for an electric car. It sounds pretty decent. This is how it's been distributed. Climate use, the route use 61%, 13% accessories. I haven't used the climate much because it's been nice weather, so that's surprising. I don't know what that does, and how the external temperature affects the power. Maybe that's what it's showing. I'm not entirely sure about that, but that's the distribution of how the power has been used. Now the interesting thing is 97 miles is what I've done. 143 miles is what it's now showing. Now let me tell you, when the car was delivered to me, and I have not recharged this car, it had a range showing of 206 miles. So you do the maths. Somehow I seem to have recouped and recovered a lot of miles, and that's primarily through the regen. And the regen, for example, you get through here. So you got the one pedal drive, and this is when you press that, you get the one pedal. As you can see, the one pedal thing has gone off there, and if I press that again, you'll see it come back on again. So the one pedal is basically, we'll talk about that on the go, but it's where you hardly ever need to use the brake. You do use the brake, but you hardly ever need to. It will come to a complete halt. Propulsion sound, I've kept that on because I like a little bit of sound when I'm moving, and also I think it's safer for people around me. I have had a couple of instances where people have just popped out from behind vans and stuff. Simply, I think they just didn't hear me coming, or they just didn't hear the car. So I think it's important to have these things on. You have some nice bit of trim here. So you've got this soft canvas-like trim here. You've got this sort of carbon effect trim here. Then you've got kind of leatherous stuff here. This is hard, but this is material. More of that stuff here. Again, the leather, it gets soft touchy here. There's not too much soft touch, but it does feel quite nice. It's nothing that you could say that it's maybe not as upmarket as an Audi or something like that, but it is pretty close, I have to say. And I think it's pretty close. There's a lever there. You don't really get much in the way of buttons. You basically have the screen, you got the starter button, and the only real buttons you get is down here. And over here you pretty much got your maximum defrost, your light switches, and that's pretty much it. Plus you got lock unlock there. Down here you've got a nice bit tray to put stuff on, including your phone. It's got wireless charger. You can in fact have your phone on Apple CarPlay without connecting it up. You can connect it up. There is the USB, both micro and regular. You can do that, or you can put it there and you can just sync it up to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it will do it for you. So that's quite handy. One thing I always find, and I think this is endemic of Fords, I keep finding this on all models. I don't know if it's to do with my phone or whatever, but I always keep getting the phone misaligned message frequently whenever I'm trying to use the wireless charger. There's the cup holders, which have slightly the rubberized or springy clasp to come out and grab your cups. You get a hazard button down there. Parking brake. This is basically your gear lever. So as you would expect, no surprises there, no paddle shifts or anything like that. You do have controls on the steering. So this is your volume, your infotainment interactive, and this is your cruise control. It does have active cruise control. And then you just got your wipers and your indicators. Over here you have this nice armrest. Underneath the armrest you've got a little cubby box with, again, another power supply in here. So plenty of power supplies in this car. And it's just nice the way it's done with this kind of floating armrest, this floating area here. And even underneath here there is in fact another compartment to store stuff. So this is like a bridge on top of another bit down here. What's down here? There's nothing. I think it's just a speaker. And you do get, of course, a glove box, with a decent size actually, not too bad at all. Just to give you the spec on the car, so this, as I said, is a standard range car, rear-wheel drive, 1 speed is all you really need, all you really get. And there's the power and everything I told you. And the combined energy consumption, 17.2 kilowatt per 100 kilometer. I think it's really quite good, the usage. I mean, this is the first car that I have not, first EV I should say, that I have not had range anxiety with. 10 to 80% charge in 38 minutes. So what's it got? 18-inch 5-spoke silver alloy wheels. I think 18 inches is a good size for this. The tires are nice and big and soft and, you know, blown out, and I think that means that the ride is pretty good, as we'll find when we're on the go. LED lights, body color bumper, side cladding, privacy glass, heated steering wheel, heated driver's passenger seats, 6-way manual. The manual seats are manually adjustable. You might prefer digital. I don't really mind. Sorry, powered adjustable. I don't really mind. 10.2 inch full digital cluster, 15.5 inch central touchscreen, next generation Sync, Ford Pass, keyless entry, rear view camera. I'll just show you the camera. It's a pretty basic one. It just shows you the rear. That's pretty much all it shows you. So it doesn't do the whole 360 thing. And then you've got dual zone climate control, pre-collision alerts. That warnings come up on here when it thinks you're going to crash into anything. Charging and all the lane keep assist, all the rest of it, everything that you normally think. To be honest, and this is, as I said, you know, 41,300. The only option on this car is the exclusive body color, which is star white. It's kind of metallic white. It's quite nice, but I don't think I would have it in white though. It's very stormtrooper-ish. So I have to say, I'm very comfortable. I've got loads of space, including from considering the rear passenger space. Here in the front, I got, look, my long legs are really stretched out. No issues. Good visibility all around. Plenty of headroom, elbow room, nice places to put your elbows. No issue. Steering proportion, everything is set. The ratio to me to how everything is set, you can adjust this as well if you want, for both rake and for reach, so that's pretty good. So it's really, really comfortable. I'm so far liking it. Will I like how it drives? Let's find that out next. So here we are on the drive, and you know, like I said, I have driven this car before, and I will put the link above or in the description below. And I focused a bit more on driving on when I was with that car, because I had a very short time and I just drove it basically. But this time I've had a lot more time to experience it over the last few days in town. I've just driven up on the motorway, and now I've found some rather nice roads to give it a little bit of a try on as well. So at the moment I'm in a town, and I'm on whisper mode, and you know, whisper mode is sort of the default mode. And as I've said about the mileage around town, I've driven it a lot in the city of London. In fact, I've taken it through the city of London. And you know, it seemed to just be absolutely perfect for that environment, because you know, even in terms of size, it wasn't as big. It's weird because when you perceive the car, you think it's a big car. When you sit in the car, you feel it's a big car. But when you're driving it, it doesn't actually feel that big. So it feels just about a handy kind of size, and you can pretty much place it quite easily. Okay, we are now heading into the black line bits of road. And you know, and it was quite, it seems to be perfect for that environment, because, and also because it seems to recoup so much energy. So now I've got a bit of an open road, and I've got active. So I'm going to go into active. I've got the one pedal thing on, and I've got the propulsion sound thing on. Now the propulsion sound, really, a higher speeds is when you start to really hear the propulsion sound. Even at regular whisper mode, I mean, you have plenty of performance, but certainly it seems to be a bit more eager and enthusiastic when you start to use the other modes. So that's the difference between the modes. Now, just going back, whilst I'm enjoying this and whilst I'm doing this, let me just finish what I was saying about the city bit, because it does seem to recoup a lot of mileage in the city. And now I've come up out here, and you know, like all week I haven't recharged this car. You know, I haven't needed to. You know, and it still had a fair bit of miles on it this morning, and then of course, well, so there you go. It's a bit slippery, it's a bit wet today, and there you see the rear. This is the rear-wheel drive version, and you know, you can start to feel the Mustanginess, I suppose, of the handling dynamic once you come out here and you put it into active mode, and you start to use it. As I was saying, you know, I have had no problem with the range at all. In fact, this is the first EV until this moment to not give me so-called range anxiety, because I've been like, yeah, it's got plenty of range, no problem at all. Of course, now that I've driven it, I drove it about 20 minutes up on the motorway, and yeah, I saw my range and my battery percentage drop quite quickly. I now have a 93 mile range and 38% battery, which I'm hoping is enough to do this and to get me back. But overall, it's been remarkable. I have to say, I'm very impressed with the range on this car, and this is not the extended range car. This is the regular one. So that's very impressive. So driving around town, absolutely fine. Maneuverable, turning circles pretty decent. Visibility all around is not an issue. You're sitting quite tall, so that's not a problem. You know, you're not quite at taxi level, but just around that level. So you get good visibility ahead, and maneuverability in parking is no issue. What I've said before, and I'll say again, because I've driven it on one pedal the whole time. Even now I'm driving it on one pedal mode. I prefer that mode, and after a while you do get, some people will not find it right for them, but I get used to it quite quickly. And you know, you end up quite rarely, you still use the brakes sometimes, but most of the time you hardly ever use the brakes. And one of the interesting things about what happens when you use the one pedal mode is in some ways it makes you a kind of better driver. This is really actually quite good fun. It kind of makes you a good driver because you're having to anticipate, look further ahead, anticipate ahead, because you're trying to figure out, you know, how much space you need to stop without actually using the brake pedal. So actually you're giving yourself more distance, more space, and you're just actually being better. So now even out here I'm using the one pedal mode, and that's what, you know, recoups a lot of that stuff. Now the only thing I was going to say about the one pedal mode is that at extreme low speeds, so basically at parking maneuvers and, you know, maneuvers such as that, the right at the end of it, it's a little bit abrupt, the way it just stops and stuff, so it's like it gets a little bit uncomfortable. So if you're doing difficult parking maneuvers, it's best to go in there and then put it back onto normal mode. Remember, you have to do that when you're not in reverse gear, because the camera's up there and it won't let you do it. So that's the only thing that I would say about that. The only other criticism that I can level at this car is, now, I mean, I'm just going through a village, and now I'm going to go into, actually let me just read these out to you while I can. I mean, and you have to stop because they won't let you read it whilst you're driving. So the active mode is balanced, fun, engaging. So that's the one I was just in. So that is actually a bit more. Whisper, of course, is the regular mode, default mode, and that's seamless drive, calm and quiet is what they're saying. Now the untamed mode is exhilarating drive, machine and road align as one. Is exactly what they've actually written here. So now we're going to go into untamed mode, and we're going to drive the rest of the route in that. Now the only thing is, like, now the sound I do think sounds, like, you can hear it a bit more, and it sounds a bit more roary. I mean, it's a continuous tone, but little bit more of an aggressive roar to it. What I would love for them to have done is, in the untamed mode, is actually put a V8 Mustang simulation sound in there. You know, why not? Why not? We're having a bit of fun here. Why not? Why not put that in there, you know? You wouldn't use that around town, but it would be good. So that would be my only suggestion. So I drove it on the motorway over here, very refined, very quiet. It does the whole autopilot type thing. You need to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but it will keep the lane, and it's active cruise control, so it will keep the distance and all the rest of it. So, and it's very smooth and no problem at all. I haven't done a longer motorway trip, but of course, like I said, it did use a little bit of electricity on there. Of course, I'm using a lot more now that I'm doing this. So I really do hope I'm able to get back home after this drive. But so far, I mean, it's still showing me 89-mile range, which should be enough to get me home. So it should be okay. If I didn't, you'll have found that information on my Instagram. I would have posted it there. This is because obviously you're watching this long after I've done this. So anyway. So anyway, on the motorway, smooth, refined, little bit of road roll, but nothing intrusive, little bit of sound, but not too bad. I mean, really, I mean, that's if you turn it down, but I kept the stereo on. Stereo is pretty good. I don't think this is a top spec stereo on this one, but even the regular one, Ford do great stereos, so that's pretty good. So now we're out here. So what's it like on this little road here, where we've got a few twists and corners, and we need to use a little bit of braking, and even with the one pedal, I'm having to use a bit of braking here. And you know what? It's rather good. I mean, it's not too big. You know, you can use that. It's one speed, seamless, no gear changes, nothing like that. So nothing to upset the torque as well. The torque is just seamless, you know. It kind of takes getting used to that fact that there are no gear changes, simulated or otherwise, at all. And you know, the handling is pretty good. The grip is not bad, like you saw. It's only if you deploy that power too much too quickly on this slippery road at the moment that you get the Mustang sensation. But really, most of the time you don't feel it's a rear-wheel drive. You feel that it's pretty. You almost feel like it's a good front-wheel drive with a tendency towards holding back on the understeer. So actually, it's very well resolved. I think it's very well set up in that sense. It would be interesting to give I did try the all-wheel drive, but it would be interesting to give that another try at some point in a place like that to see what that's like. But generally, you know, it's been very, very good. So, and you know, as you saw just then, I was on this road. I've just entered a little village now, but I was on that road, and I actually was enjoying myself. And, you know, I'm not saying that this is a sports car, do not get me wrong. It's not. It's a family SUV for sure, and it is electric. But having said that, if you live in a village or somewhere like that, you got some nice roads around you, then, you know, you can take it out and you can enjoy them, and, you know, you can have a little bit of fun with it. And once you start to master its dynamics and stuff, you can see that it is a rear-wheel drive car as well. So that's also quite interesting. The other thing that we've got to talk about, the elephant in the room, or rather the pony in the room, is the whole Mustang connotations, you know. And a lot of people are like, yeah, it's okay, but why is it a Mustang? And it's like, you're right, this is not, let's be honest, this is not a Mustang. I mean, this is the polar opposite to a Mustang. This is the only electric car that Ford are doing at the moment, because all the other cars are hybridized and stuff like that. This is the only electric car. With this car, Ford is making a statement. They wanted people to take notice. They wanted to take people to pay attention, to sit up and pay attention to their first electric car. And inside and outside, it's got this whole look. There's no grille. Inside, it's got this very futuristic look with this basically one panel, one big screen that controls everything. They're really making a statement. And I guess what they decided to do with the Mustang brand was the Mustang brand is the coolest. Well, Mustang is the coolest car on the planet. Let's be honest. I've said that before. I said it in the Mustang review. I'll say it again. The Mustang is the coolest car that you can buy. So if you own the coolest brand in the market, would you not try and use that? Of course you would. It's the same thing that BMW have done with Mini and Fiat have done with 500 because of the affection for that brand. And so that's what Ford are doing with this. And the one thing that they have done, whether or not you agree with what they've done, or whether or not you agree that this is a Mustang, and it isn't, let's be honest, it's got ponies and stuff. It's a Mustang because Ford say it is. That's the only reason this is a Mustang. But whether or not you agree with it, the fact is that what they have done is they've created a conversation starter. And I think that's very important now, because with these electric cars, when you're trying to get people interested, you're trying to get people hooked, is to start that conversation, is to get people's interest piqued and go, what, Mustang? And I tell you what, around town in London, driving this around, it's had looks. It's had a couple of people comment on it. It's had one person shout from across the road, going, "Oh, that's the new Mustang. That's the first one I've seen." It's really got some attention. This is the base model in white, you know, and it has got attention. People are interested in it. So, and people called it the Mustang. It's funny because I call it the Mach-E, but people called it the Mustang. So it's interesting that. So whether you agree or not, I think marketing-wise, strategy-wise, they have probably done the right thing. It's interesting. There's no Ford badges on here at all. Maybe they should have introduced a Ford badge because they want to say that this is part of the Ford thing, although this is very different from any Ford that you might be used to. So that's a good thing. But anyway, what they've done is they've created a brand new product. This is no baggage. This is the good thing about this car. This is ground up, brand new, fully electric car. Excuse me, not COVID. I'm getting excited. They're not taking an existing car and they've just had to shoehorn some batteries and motor and turn it. This is an electric car, and what they're doing is they've gone after things like Tesla with this car, because they're like, okay, this is a dedicated electric car from one of the oldest manufacturers in the world, one of the most accomplished and skilled at what they do, and not only in terms of building and developing and engineering the cars, but also at setting them up, because Ford always like to put in a little bit of fun into their cars. So there you go. So if you're getting a lot of positivity from me, then don't be surprised, because I think overall my view, and I am a huge Mustang fan, the classic Mustangs and the Bullet Mustang, the modern one. I am a huge Mustang fan. I totally am into that Mustang thing. I would buy one. I would buy one tomorrow. Would I buy this? Okay, this is possibly the first EV that might convert me. If right now, at this moment, if you said to me I had to absolutely get an electric car and I had the funds to do so, yes, I'd get this car. I would actually get this car. And even this model, the regular one, I think would be good enough. You know, that's all you really need. So there you go. Shock verdict? Surprise verdict? From a huge regular Mustang fan to come out and a huge EV skeptic. Let's be honest, I still remain an EV skeptic. And I've just turned around and said, yeah, I've enjoyed driving this around town so much. Still showing me 87 miles. I'm now heading home. So yes, I have enough. Even with 35% battery, I'm actually quite reassured. And I don't say that often in an EV, that I will make it home. So there you go. Thumbs up from the brown car guy, an EV skeptic, when it comes to an EV? Let me know what you think of the Mustang Mach-E. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy and hit the bell icon and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. Whilst you're at it, subscribe to browncarguy.com and follow me on social media by just searching for my hashtag. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even on TikTok. If you love my content, then please consider sponsoring and supporting it, and you can do that over at patreon.com/browncarguy. And you know what? You can use my platforms to promote your product, service, or brand. My YouTube channel is now closing in on 3,000 subscribers as I record this. Total views are nearly 500,000, and the reach just over the last month is nearly 1 million. So join these amazing people as my patrons, including Mohammed Humaid in the UAE, Partha in India, a tech guru and social media consultant. Find him on parthans.com. Tom Conway Gordon here in the UK, Isaac Beauchard in the US. He's got some great deals on cool cars at bespokeautos.com. Reza Adil, check him out at Alizadeh Cigars on Instagram. Mohammed Qasim, business consultant. You can find him at wehms.com. Siraj Abbasi at Tiles Italia on Instagram for luxury floor and wall tiling. Mark Waddell in Canada. Zach Kogiani, a globe-trotting pilot with amazing images for sale at zachkogiani.com. And last but not least, my school champ Shaheer Hakki. Thanks for watching. More cool vids on the way. Catch you again in the next one.